Mr. K.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out to Tuesday, January the 30th City Council meeting. Let the record show that all council members are present. We will have invocation, and we also will have the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Gonzalez. Would you all please stand? Most gracious Father, we thank you once again for your many blessings that you have bestowed upon this city. We thank you for blessing Fort Cavazos and the soldiers and family members, especially those that are in harm's way. God, we thank you for the residents of Killeen and the city staff. God, we ask that you continue to give us the wisdom and knowledge as leaders of this city, God, to do the right thing for all people, God. We thank you for your grace and we thank you for your mercy. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Council, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Councilmember Boyd.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Adams.
I second the motion.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Council, we will now have presentations. You have 3 times each to speak for 3 minutes. Madam Secretary.
PR 24004, Killeen Star Award.
All right. All righty then. You know, this is a very important award. And come on over here, Councilwoman Gonzalez. This is a very important award that the council gives out for individuals that have gone beyond in the community to do extraordinary things in volunteering. So the person that I have had the opportunity to meet through Councilwoman Gonzalez have gone beyond the expectations of what it takes to volunteer and to give out of your heart, not only for yourself, but for the community and the people that you serve. Mr. Les, where are you, sir? Please come on up here. Give him a round of applause. Thank you. So we'll turn it over to Councilwoman Gonzalez because she nominated him. So it's a pleasure. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Congratulations. You're welcome. So again, very honored. Thank you, Madam, for your kind words. Thank you, Les, for being an active part of our community. This man right here is not only walking a walk, he is talking a talk, he is walking the walk, okay? So I was on council a little over 2 years ago. This gentleman, I had the pleasure of meeting him. He's hosting block parties within our community, feeding our homeless, actively engaging with citizens, and really doing his part along with his congregation to make our 4-1 a better place, but also ultimately he is focused also on giving back to the city of Killeen as a whole, and that's really important to me. So I just want to share a little with you about Mr. Les Williams. He's the pastor of New Sunset Community Church since 2021. So Les and his family live in Killeen. And he plans on spending the rest of his life devoted to the people of New Sunset and 76541, which is right there in District 1. He's been married to his wife Melissa for almost 9 years, and they have twin 5-year-old boys named Braxton and Zane, and they're both kindergarten students here at KISD. I see you guys over there. Hi. Les is in his second year also serving on the School Health Advisory Council for the Killeen School District. He's parent co-chair, and he supports Killeen Elementary School, providing encouragement and support to their staff. He's also a board member for the Bell Baptist Association. The mission of his church is to make disciples to make the 4-1 noticeably better, and he is doing that at every turn. Under his leadership, his team has hosted over 17 block parties in the past 2 years. They can meet the community and provide a safe place for families to enjoy a good time and a free meal. Les also has partnered with organizations. City council members, we can't be everywhere at all times. And so when I sat down with Les, I understood his vision. He understood my vision for District 1, but ultimately for the city of Killeen. And when I said, we're in this together, he said, yes, ma'am. Well, there was a young lady out here who was also serving the community, and she says, I want help, I want to help, I need help. I said, well, call this gentleman, and they have been working collectively together for a while now, and that's really what it's about, is a teamwork, team effort for a common goal. And so I'm very proud of you. I'm very honored to know you. I'm very thankful for your congregation and all that they have done for our community and the block parties and serving the children. My son enjoys those events. So again, I just want to tell you congratulations again, and thank you for giving back to our city. Yes, sir. Yes.
I'd love to say something.
Will his church please stand up? Stand up. That is amazing. Look who all of them came out to support him. Truly amazing.
So I told my church that when we get back to the church, my name's getting scratched off and their name is going on there. Because you hear a lot of things. We do shoe giveaways and things of that nature. It doesn't happen without a congregation that is committed to the 4-1. We love the 4-1. And ultimately what we're trying to do is just model Jesus. Jesus came to earth. He didn't have to love people, to be kind to them. And so that's what we've seen a church do for the last 26 months, is go to a part of town that we know is maybe not the best part of town, but we love it. We love the 4-1. And so, man, I would challenge us, please, citizens of Killeen, let's love our neighbor. Amen. Let's love our enemies, because we're seeing a church make people noticeably better when we act like Jesus.
All right. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
That is truly amazing, the Star Award, and he truly deserved that award tonight. Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez. Madam Secretary.
PR 24005, presentation regarding the Central Texas State Veterans Cemetery.
Thank you.
So, Mayor and Council, and tonight we have Tony Dale with us. He's the Executive Secretary to the Veterans Land Board. Tony?
Good evening, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mayor and Council, thank you. My name is Tony Dale, and I serve as the Executive Secretary of the Texas Veterans Land Board. In that capacity, I oversee our bond program, the home and land loans, the Texas State Veterans Nursing Home Program, and the Texas State Veterans Cemeteries. Tonight, I'm providing a brief report to you and the community on our activities at the cemetery. At the VLB, we are very pleased and thankful for Killeen's willingness to enter into a contract to help us operate the Central Texas State Veterans Cemetery. From the first day I reached out to City Manager Kent Cagle, every interaction we've had with the city officials and staff has been professional and efficient. Here are a few things I want you to know and I want the public to be aware of. We sought your help to maintain the high standards expected by this community and those set by the Veterans Administration, National Cemetery Administration. Across Texas, we have 4 state cemeteries for veterans. At all of them, we originally used temporary workers. We've done that since 2019, and we had state contracts for that labor. This included the cemetery in Killeen. Over the last several years, we've transitioned the operations and maintenance in Mission, Texas, Corpus Christi, and Abilene so that those contracts were with cities or the county. So Killeen is the most recent location where we're doing this. So unbeknownst to most of the public, every worker except one at the Killeen Cemetery who greeted guests, led unaccompanied veteran burials, registered veterans and family members for burial, and maintained the grounds has been a temporary worker the entire time. They're not state employees. We paid a firm for labor. That firm in turn subcontracted the contract, and that sub firm, everybody kept a lot of the money in there. It didn't really flow down to the employees that were doing that great work out there at the cemeteries. And this workforce only earned an hourly wage with very few benefits. So it may be hard to believe, but basically everybody there has been a contractor, and they've done a magnificent job at this wonderful cemetery. You've all seen it. So in this new arrangement, the state maintains ownership of the grounds and all the equipment, and ultimately we at the state are responsible for making sure these high standards are maintained. We'll continue to have retired Command Sergeant Major Douglas Galt on site every day. He is a state employee, works for our team, and he's there to advise on the standards and monitor operations. 100% of the contract employees that have been working at the cemetery have accepted employment with the city. And we're confident that this experienced team will continue to keep the Central Texas State Veterans Cemetery the crown jewel in our fleet of cemeteries. So based on the terms of the contract, the cemetery must maintain, as I said, the National Cemetery Administration standards, and the staff that we have there is fully paid for by the contract. This entire undertaking is at no expense to Killeen taxpayers, as the contract and the payment we give to the city covers the salaries, the benefits, the operating supplies, and indirect costs the city may incur. The staff, by contract, is dedicated to the operations at the cemetery, so they're not going to be used for activities outside of the cemetery. Now, the other thing that is important to know, and not a lot of people know, is that the money that we generate at the Veterans Land Board is not from taxpayer dollars that were given by the legislature. We generate our own money through the sale of the mortgages and the home loans. And we take proceeds from those sales, and we pay back our bonds, and we take a portion of it, and that's how we maintain the cemeteries. So we don't have to worry about this becoming an unfunded mandate from the legislature. We've got you covered. It's not going to be a financial burden on the city, sir. I promise. The other benefit that we have in this whole deal is that the labor contract that we had with the contractor was very, very high, and that was causing financial pressure on us as well. So as we did with the other cities and counties that we have done this with, we start off with a relatively short-term contract. This ensures that the city's comfortable with what you're doing, and we're comfortable with the quality of the work that's being done out there. And in each circumstance where we've done this, everybody's become comfortable with the operations, and we've gone to longer terms later down the road. So we start small and then expand as we see it successful, and I'm confident it will be. So by law, we at the VLB are limited to spend no more than $7 million per year on all of our cemeteries. It's no surprise that inflation's been a big deal for a lot of people. We're in the process of building a 5th cemetery right now in Lubbock, and so we have to take prudent action to ensure that we can meet all the needs of these various locations. The staff at the cemetery, your new city employees, they are either all veterans or family members of veterans. They care deeply about the mission, and they recognize the importance of the cemetery to the community and to the state of Texas. We are dedicated to working with you to ensure the Central Texas State Veterans Cemetery remains a place of respect, dignity, and honor. So following this presentation, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but I'm going to hang out in the lobby, so if anybody in the audience wants to come ask me a question, I'm available for questions. If there's people that are watching online and you have questions for me, I'm going to give you my phone number in a second, so get ready to write this down. but my telephone number is 512-463-8764. I'm going to say that again. My phone number is 512-463-8764. Any member of the public that wants to call me, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I want to thank you for letting me speak here tonight, and I'm happy to answer, if it's permissible under your rules, any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dale, Sergeant Major Goff, and also Dr. Kelly. Thank you for having the council out for the tour of the Veteran Cemetery. And I also thank you for listening to my concerns. And my concerns you address, just some individuals that do provide services out there to the cemetery had concerns. And tonight you came, all three of you, to answer those concerns. And we are truly grateful for that. And we look forward to working with you. And I'm glad that you pointed out the 8 months as we go through this process to see if it's a fit for us and also the veteran cemetery, because it's important to our veterans. And to Sergeant Major Goff, there's no doubt that since you in charge, that you're going to hold us accountable as well as we will be holding you accountable and everyday operation. And we truly thank you and Dr. Kelly for that presentation that you gave to the council. So we're looking forward to this partnership. And with that being said, Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I don't have any questions based on my 3-hour visit out there to the cemetery where you guys are doing outstanding work. I did just want to thank you for coming out personally to provide absolute clarity and transparency to any lingering concerns that did exist. So thank you for that.
Thanks, sir.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you for that presentation. I think you hit a couple of nails right on the head. You know, we've been hearing a lot from some residents and some in the news about, you know, this is going to end up as an unfunded mandate. So I'm glad that you touched on that the money does not come from the legislature. It comes from VA home mortgages or loans. And then the other one that you also hit on was that we've received some fear or concern that, you know, the city was going to swap out everybody who was there and put in some subpar employees that were going to let it go by the wayside, and obviously that's not the case. So I'm glad to hear again that, number one, that you're here, accessible, and that you have touched on those points again for the public to really be able to digest what happened here. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that great presentation. I just want to say, as a council member, and I'm sure my fellow council members will agree, that, you know, we want to return all the honor and dignity and the respect to our cemetery, and we want to do our part as a city to make sure that we're upholding that high values and sacred place. And I think that as long as I've been here, I know that we have tried to make sure that we do that. You know, we've designated that area as a cemetery district, so it is not easy for anybody to go out there and just build anything. We want to make sure that we honor all of that, and I just wanted to make sure that we as a city make sure that everybody understands, that you understand that you placed that trust and that honor in us, and we want to do the same to you. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you. I share all the sentiment. I just had a question for Dr. Kelly, if you wouldn't mind. There are some things that doing the presentation, it was absolutely wonderful. There's some wonderful things that I think, if you wouldn't mind, just very, very briefly sharing with the citizens regarding the lights at the cemetery that we talked about. That was so moving. There's a lot of good things that you guys have going on out there that it was touching for me, that I think that the citizens should be made aware of. Would you mind just telling them a little bit about the lights and maybe the World War II veterans, or the World War I and II veterans? Memorial, I'm sorry. Would you share that story?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. John Kelly. I'm the director of the Texas State Veteran Cemetery Program. What the council member's talking about is a part of the presentation I made the other day during the tour. I talked about Memorial Day 2023. We tried some new things at Memorial Day, and they are now going to be traditions moving forward. Number one, we're going to keep the cemetery open all weekend, day and night, so that folks can come out there and commune with their loved ones. Number two, we're going to, on the road coming into it, it's called the Avenue of Flags, and if you drive through there, you'll see flag poles. We'll actually fly flags even after dark. We're going to light them up with some lights as well. And then let me back up and say, the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day is that Memorial Day is focused on those who are missing in action or killed in action. So we are going to light up every MIA and KIA headstone that's interred at that cemetery. And then finally, on the 27th, that Monday of that holiday weekend, we'll have a ceremony, and part of that ceremony will be a very traditional roll call of those MIAs and KIAs. For those of you who have seen it before, it involves calling out their name 3 times, and of course, they don't answer because they were killed in action or they are missing in action. So we'll be doing that again this year. All of those things we're going to do as traditions from now on, because the public reaction was incredible to that. I got to tell you, you go out there and you see it, it's hard not to get a tear in your eye. The second item that you wanted me to talk about was a couple of World War II MIAs who became KIAs that we buried over the last year at the cemetery. These are, one was a B-17 bomber navigator shot down over Germany. The other one was a 4th ID soldier during the Battle of the Bulge. Up until last year, no one knew who they were. They buried them in graves in Belgium, but they had a designator X3724. But because of the marvels of modern technology, DNA analysis, et cetera, they were actually identified and traced to their families. One family lived in Leander, the other family lived in Austin, and we had the great honor of those families choosing to have those heroes interred at our Central Texas State Veterans Cemetery. And it was a wonderful service, and finally brought to closure for those families this legend in their family that had existed for 78 years. And so it was truly amazing. We were blessed to do that.
Thank you all for your
Thank you.
service. Thank you.
Sergeant Major Goff, would you like to say anything, sir?
I would just like to say that this is going to be a great partnership, and that the standards will not be let down, because that's not my standards. And that I'm very pleased that we had the opportunity to come talk to you again, to bring some of the closure on what everybody wanted closure. Standards is not going to go. I have a feeling standards is going to go higher, because it's going to be a team effort. And as long as we work together, I think it would be fine. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to say something, but this is going to be great. I really do.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. And if you would like to speak with them, they will be back in the foyer. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
PR 24006, receive a presentation regarding WCID number 1, water system improvements.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Garrett.
Good afternoon, Mayor
Mr.
and Council.
Cagle, would you like to say something?
Just say, keep in mind, as Mr. Garrett's given this presentation, this is not showing back up on your agenda on the 6th, but we'll either have it, it'll probably be on the second workshop in February for consideration. So we'll have some time to discuss and think about this more if you need it.
And we also have a board member, Mrs. Blankenship is here too. Is there anyone else?
And our board president, Rob Robinson.
Oh,
Is here.
sorry, Mr. Robinson, former Mayor Harker Heights.
Yep.
Sorry about that, sir, I didn't see you. Yes, sir, the floor is all on.
Thank you, thank you. Joining me this evening is Alan Wilkie with CDM Smith, our engineer. So with that, I'm going to go through, I got a lot of slides, and I'm going to try to be considerate of your time constraints. So let's see if I can figure out how to. Okay, so before we go into the plant improvements, I just wanted to mention the other smaller projects that we're lumping in with this debt service to try to be efficient. We've all talked quite a while on the 48-inch segment. That's where all of our leaks on the 48 have been, except for 2. One of those, a contractor was excavating, and the other one was years ago up near the base. The surge tank replacement project, so those are tanks that are on the 48-inch line. That line on any given day carries about 2/3 of all the water produced out of the Belton Water Plant. And those tanks are 1975 steel tanks. They've had new roofs placed on them, but they're in pretty rough shape, and they're woefully too small for the volumes of water we push. And then lastly, the Stage 3 storage tank recoating is a project that we need to take on also. And before I turn it over to Mr. Wilkie, I wanted to say there's been a lot of questions about issuing debt service for maintenance. In what we're talking about here, maintenance is related to replacement of large infrastructure that's at the end or near the end of its useful life. It's not servicing, it's not greasing or oiling, it's replacement primarily. So I just wanted to make that clear up front. So here on the screen is our system. I don't know, do I have a pointer? Is it? Okay, so the surge tanks are here. The 5,000 feet project is about here. And then the Station 3 tanks that need recoating are here. Just for perspective, that's where we're talking about on our delivery system. And all of those projects are on what the contract refers to as the clean transmission system. So this is a close-up of the 5,000 feet section that's, it's been designed.
That will erase it.
Okay, thank you. It's been designed and it's ready to bid, as well as the surge tanks are bid ready. And here's a shot of those. So this is their 500,000 gallon tanks. What we're proposing is a 3 million gallon surge tank and keep those tanks active so we have some redundancy and do some rehab on those tanks, and that should suffice for our larger flows. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wilkie to go through some of the slides he's going to present or review, but some of you weren't able to make it to the plant tour, so hopefully it'll, there we go. Alan?
Thank you, Ricky.
Do you need
Good.
those?
No. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to go over this. Many of you have seen this before because excuse me, there's a pin down here. You were at the water treatment plant when we did the tour back when it was really hot outside. I remember that. But we'll go through these really quick because I want to be respectful of your time, and we have opportunities for questions following it. So just to go back through it real quick, this is the proposed site plan. You'll hear us talk about the raw water pump station. You'll hear us talk about Plant 3, which is here. We're also going to talk about Plant 1, Plant 2, and Plant 4. And all those will be discussed in a short period, and we'll step through those. But just want to kind of give you the layout. When we met, we actually were in this building right here. This is the main operating facility where we were in the conference room and kind of went over the presentation. Some of the improvements that are going to be required to expand the plant. And we're talking about the expansion of the plant now because in order to expand this plant, we have to take out the existing plant that was built in 1975. The equipment inside those clarifier tanks require a lot of maintenance, millions of dollars worth of maintenance. And the tanks that are there don't really fit the water quality that we have at Lake Belton. So we're proposing to do new facilities that better fit the water quality and can continue to produce the beautiful water that the district produces for its customers. The raw water pump station right now is limited to 90 million gallons a day. We're talking about expanding it so it can meet the future capacity of the Belton plant, whatever that capacity is. Ultimately, we want to get to 118 million gallons a day. We may not be able to do it in this expansion. It may take a couple of expansions to get there. We're trying to take care of the customer's needs in the short term to medium term, and we're looking for capacity commitments to do that. There's also, we're going to talk about Plant 1. Plant 1 was built in the 1950s for, at the time, Camp Hood, I think, then Fort Hood, now Fort Cavazos. There's some improvements to that plant that need to be done, but I need to make the point that that will be handled by the fort and not by any of the other customers. That capacity in that plant is dedicated for the fort. We'll also talk about some other maintenance improvements that are associated with Plant 2 and chemical improvements for Plant 3. So let's talk, we did a master plan for the district, and in that master plan, we not only looked at future water demands for all of its customers, we also looked at the condition of the plant. You know, looked at it and said, well, this needs to be painted, this needs to be replaced, this is worn out, you can't find replacement parts for it. It's really embarrassing when you have to, you know, and this is not unique to the district. This is a lot of clients who have older equipment. These manufacturers built in obsolescence, right? So you go and you try to buy a part for some of this stuff, and these guys are buying it off of eBay because there's the manufacturers, the giant GEs, the big companies that make this equipment don't make those parts anymore. So we have some of those things that we have to replace in order to keep the plant operational long-term. So one of the things we're going to talk about is some of the raw water condition and the capacity of that plant. When y'all were out there, I believe y'all visited the raw water pump station. There are 11 pumps there right now. They're in what I call cans. They're very long vertical columns that go down into a tunnel that comes directly out of Lake Belton. In order to expand that facility, we have to replace some of the smaller pumps with larger pumps to get the additional capacity. We also have electrical improvements, and my little rabbit trail previously to talk about obsolescence, a lot of that has to deal with the raw water pump station electrical building. Those pumps are very large, some of them up to 800,000 horsepower motors, and they're being powered by equipment that dates back to the 50s and 60s. We believe that that's a serious reliability issue and needs to be addressed. The other thing that you may recall from your visit out there were those large electrical lines that ran down from the main building where we met down to that raw water pump station. During the ice storms that we've had, and even big windstorms, those power lines are vulnerable to failure. And so our goal is to put that electric service underground so it's protected from windstorms, ice storms, and any other event that may cut off power to the raw water pump station and render it unusable for a period of time. And then one of the things that we need to do is when we expand Plant 3, that pipeline from the raw water pump station to Plant 3 was built to provide 25 million gallons a day. It will need to be enlarged to provide up to 55 million gallons a day. Plant 1, we're going to go over this real quickly just to be complete. There's some improvements to this plant. Again, it was built in the 1950s. There are some flock basin baffles that are built out of redwood. We want to replace those with concrete. The sludge mechanisms have been there since the 1950s. They're getting pretty raggedy. There's bearings and other moving parts that are just shot that need to be replaced. Inside the filter pipe galleries, we hired a corrosion control expert engineering firm, and they identified some areas like here where there's rusting going on between the pipe and the concrete interface. So those will be repaired and put back into service. So those are the improvements for Plant 1. Clear. Plant 3 expansion, what you're seeing on here is you can see the existing round circular clarifiers. You can also see that they were empty at the time. They're the last facility that the district uses when it's treating water because it just doesn't fit in the condition of the equipment. The idea would be to replace those equipment with this larger rectangular basin. Ultimately, there'll be 4 what we call flocculation sedimentation basins, which work to treat the water before it goes into the filters. Initially, we would build 3, leaving some capacity for additional expansion in the future. We have the blessing of having quite a bit of filter capacity built here that the district built in previous expansions. And so the most expensive part of a plant is its filters, and we have filter capacity at the plant to do 118 million gallons a day. So there is no expansion to the filter facilities. It's just expansion to the flocculation sedimentation basin. There's also chemical storage and feed and other improvements that go along to support it, but I'm not going to go through those because I'm trying to be respectful of your time. There's some other things that need to be done. Most of these are related to maintenance. There's some air scour blowers that help keep the filters clean. There's there's chlorine storage facilities. That's a toxic gas. We have it contained, but we're proposing to put a scrubber in that facility so that if the gas got loose, we could render it harmless. There are some tank replacement. Sludge 2 collectors are 1965, so they're pushing 60-plus years old. Some tank replacements. Those tanks are usually only good for 10 or 15 years before the sun beats them up. Some, again, filter pipe galleries. That's associated with the corrosion between the steel and concrete interface. There's some pump station upgrades. And there's some improvements to allow more water to go through plant 2 and 4, which gives us some capacity increases at those plants at a relatively low cost. The opinion of construction costs, we used to call this estimates, but we don't like to do that anymore. So we're going to go through these real quick. So we have developed options to expand and take advantage of remaining capacity at plant 4. We have looked at taking available capacity at plant 2 and taking advantage of it, and by changing the chemical feed locations, getting more capacity out of existing infrastructure. And then we look at maybe doing a 10 MGD expansion by just doing plant 3, and then we look at combinations of them as we move forward. As you can see, each one has an increasing level of cost. Some of them are relatively inexpensive, some of them get to be a little bit more. With plant 4 only, we get a 4 MGD expansion. By doing plant 2 and 4 at the same time, we can get a 6. Plant 3 is a 10. And then you can see by changing out and adding, we get 14, 16, and then we go to 28. Going from 16 to 28, we're adding that 4th basin that we were talking about earlier. And we also are adding more pumps and other equipment that goes along with it. So there's a little bit of a step up. There's nothing between 16 and 28. These are some of the costs. I want to point out that there's a C and an M in this column. The C stands for capacity increase, and the M stands for maintenance, something that has to be done. As Mr. Garrett said, it's not that we're wanting to sell bonds for painting and for oiling and things like that. We're making major millions of dollars worth of equipment, which isn't something that's typically done out of your operating budget. This is major capital improvements. So I'm not going to go through all this. Let's get to the bottom line. The construction cost is $94.9 million for everything. That includes the raw water pump station, plant 1, plant 3 expansion, and the balance of the plant, the things I went over. The project cost, so this is construction cost. This is what would actually be paid to the contractor. In addition to that, there's the selling of the bonds, there's engineering firms, there's other costs that are associated with getting the project designed, bid, financed, and all that. There's also contingencies in there, and we also do this thing because inflation's been so bad lately. We also inflate the cost to the midpoint of construction, because right now, if we don't do that, we get caught shorthanded or short-funded. I wanted to break this down into different costs so that you can see how it kind of breaks out by project. The raw water pump station maintenance project, again, construction cost is what it actually costs. Project cost is what would be funded. It includes all those other costs. Plant 1 maintenance, this is for Fort Cavazos. Oops, clear. Fort Cavazos. Plant 1 and 2 combined maintenance, this would be shared between the other district customers in Fort Cavazos, and then the remaining items. This is the maintenance costs. And then the expansion costs, the 10 MGD expansion, the 14 and the 16. You'll notice that there's not that much change when you go from 10 MGD to 14 MGD. So I like to look at it on a cost per gallon basis, kind of like gasoline. So, on a project cost for a 10 MGD expansion, let's call it $8 a gallon. So $80 million, 10 million gallon expansion, $8 per gallon. You move down to 14 and you see that for adding 4 million gallons, we only increase the cost by $4 million. That's because we're taking advantage of that existing capacity and squeezing a little more capacity out of the plant. And the same thing is even in more stark reality by going from 14 to 16. You're getting 2 million gallons a day for the low everyday price of $200,000. So you can see by taking advantage of this existing capacity out there, we can start to deliver a more and more economical plant. And so here's kind of what I was explaining before. Here's what you can see on individual expansions, the total expansion cost, this is project cost, and then the cost per gallon. So you can see if we started small and worked our way up, we'd start off at $6.61 per gallon. And if we go all the way to 16, we're at $5.31. Pretty reasonable price for the work that's being contemplated out there. Ricky, is this your part?
Yeah. So this is the max day demand curve that we developed in conjunction with city staff. The blue line is our projected use. The green dots are actual historical use. And so that's how you're trending. If the blue line is representative of what actually happens, then you showed to need about 2 million gallons a day between now and 2050. And that, in my, excuse me, in my opinion, that's kind of the floor level of what you ought to be looking at, because there's potential for that blue line to be underestimated. You know, when we got the 2020 census data, the population was greater than we thought, and there's potential for more growth coming from the south, from all the high-tech development that's occurring out that direction. So, you know, I don't know what that's going to do. I guess all of us have our best guesses, but if it occurs like we projected before we knew some of that data, then I think 2 MGD would be the minimum that you should be looking at. But just my opinion, that's one of the answers we're going to be looking for at the next workshop. We've got to do the maintenance items to stay compliant with the regulators. And I'm here, let's see, I've got a couple more slides. This is the max day portion of the contract. The other portion is how much water supply do you have reserved under contract? And in this you've got 5,000 to 6,000 acre feet more at 2070 than you project to use with that. So you're great shape on water supply situation. So if you pursued 2 MGD, this is what the capital outlay would look for the maintenance for those projects I mentioned up front, and your portion of the plant maintenance. And then at $6 a gallon for 2 MGD is 12 million. And so that's what would be considered to go to debt service. Our financial advisor, because there's been a lot of concern about, are we too conservative? Are we putting all this cushion in there, and then the project comes in 20% below what our expectation is? And there's a way the debt can be structured where you got to nominate it up front when you issue the debt, but you can put back directly on the principal at year 5. So you're almost all the way through the project, and then you know how much extra you have, and all that can be applied back towards the principal. So with that, I think that we could answer questions on the project if there are any. But if I have a couple more minutes, I'd like to provide a little quick update on the standby generation project. Is that okay, Mayor? Okay. Let's see. No, okay. All right, so those of you that took the tour, this is the front gate where you come into the plant. This is where all of our electrical service comes in, and where the standby generators are covers roughly this footprint right here. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. There we go. I got it. Sorry. All right, this is the 16 generators that are going to occupy that footprint. This is the control center On this end, this is under heavy construction right now. All 16 generators are set, and they're being equipped. The natural gas line is in place, the 11,000 feet. The new Encore meter is there, and so things are proceeding pretty well. This is the image, the plan image, kind of overlaid over the actual aerial to give you perspective with this. All right, what am I doing? There we go. Shorter. So this was when they were pouring the slab for where the generator set. They're finishing the slab. We'll just pour through these. So that's one of the generators. I guess I had never seen a 625 kW generator, but that's, you can see from the guy standing there, they're pretty big generators. All right, it's not helping. There we go. This is the first 8 that came in. They were weatherproof before shipping, but the contractor went ahead and double tarped them just in case, as they're finishing the slab, I'm sorry. So there's 2 rows of buildings, 2 sets of 8, and they are moving along. Both buildings are pretty much dried in now, and they're going to do load testing on the gas line, I believe, next week, and then we'll be moving towards final completion. So we expect the entire project will be substantially complete around March 7th. We're still waiting on receiving some 480-volt switchgear. As Mr. Wilkie was talking about earlier, the lead times on equipment they've kind of stabilized, but they haven't gotten a lot better. Those have been on order for about a year almost. And we expect substantial completion March 7th and final completion to be in May. When it's finally complete, the automation will be there, the transfer switching, so that if the grid goes down, these generators will come on without any input from an individual having to be there, and then they will ramp up or down to match the demand side that the plant is at. So it's pretty sophisticated, and we feel we've got the right contractors on this. They really know what they're doing, and I look forward to this starting up. All these generators have silencers, but I still look forward to being there on the ground when all 16 of those fire up. Just be there. So, at any rate, that's all I had for tonight. But thank y'all for your time and attention on this.
Thank you so much for your update. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one thing.
Citizen comments.
One moment. I have one thing. Madam Mayor, council members, I just want to make sure that you're all aware that we are having the chlorine conversion coming up starting February 1st. So all of your constituents will notice an increased chlorine levels in their waters, so please be aware. You will be getting phone calls, I'm sure. Yes. Oh, and also with repairs, I want to just reiterate that wipes, although technically you can flush them, they do not dissolve in the water, so we have to pull those out. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizen comments. Council, you have 1 minute time allotted to respond. Micah Fornino. Good evening, you have 4 minutes.
With regard to border and budget amendments, I mean, the presentation we just saw, very informative, but once again, there's issues going on with water. Right now, we're failing to address the situations that we have. First, there's the overbilling that made the news this week. That little fact I mean, all this, we were thinking about signing contracts and everything else. I mean, before we go thinking about signing anything new, I mean, the fact that we were being overbilled, overcharged for water escaped at least 3 city managers right there. So that alone, the fact that that little fact has cost us, the city, quite a bit of money, I can't say it strongly enough. We need a forensic audit. I mean, we don't know where our money's coming in from, how it's getting charged, where it's going. I mean, 3 city managers have failed to miss this with the overbilling, minimum. So, once again, our current city management and past city management has no idea what's going on with several hundreds of thousands of dollars. Was that by design or just something that an outsider had to trip over with their audit? Especially with the budget. Now, we had that big budget oversight I just mentioned with the water. Yet we're going to start changing the budget again. We don't know what we've got. None of you can say it with any confidence. I mean, after that, oh, this has been going on, what, correct me if I'm wrong, 17 years with the overcharging of the water? Don't insult my intelligence and say that you knew, because you didn't. Or if you did know, then we've got bigger problems. Further, we've been in stage 2 water restrictions. I mean, we're talking about increased capacity, increased capacity, increased capacity. We watched the greater Austin area, Georgetown, Round Rock, Pflugerville, expand, expand, expand. I mean, you have to hire a team of people to help you drown in Lake Travis at this point. Okay? They're using too much water. We see them using too much water. Yet what do? Let's help alleviate their problem, and we're going to sell them our water. And while that's going on, we do the same thing. We just expand, 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 expand. Lack of foresight, lack of planning, over-the-horizon vision, and failure to keep a handle on what we have. I mean, this is a common theme. How many times, how many different ways, how many different flavors do at least I have to bring it to you folks? Time after time after time. I'd say I tried to discuss it with you, but yet another failure, city management, I find out today that for some reason, magically, my phone number is blocked from all city numbers, whether it be code enforcement, police.
Sir,
I-
please stick to the
This
agenda.
is overall, okay?
We're
This is a
talking about water.
don't interrupt me. This is a broad topic. I'm dumbing it down to a master's degree level here so that hopefully somebody can understand, right? This is nonsense. You folks can't manage what we
No
have.
personal insults,
What personal, did I mention any names? Did I mention any names?
That's enough.
Mr.
What's enough?
Fernino,
The
please
fact
stay.
that I don't take this kind of crap from you?
Mr. Fernino, please just
Please
stick to
get
the
him out.
agenda.
This
Just
is the
please.
agenda.
Please stick to the agenda.
I can't get us specific on the agenda because you're afraid of hearing from us.
Mr. Fernino, stick
You're out
to
of
the
the
agenda.
This is the agenda.
Thank you.
This is the agenda. Time after time, we try to bring stuff up. It's uncomfortable. You find out you're not the smartest people in the room. Okay? The
Mr.
fact that I ask a
Fernino.
question.
Point of order.
Point of order
Again.
yourself.
Mr.
Please excuse
Fernino,
him.
he has 16 seconds, now 14. Mr. Fernino, just stick to the agenda item, please.
I do, but you can't follow a broad concept to make a finer point. I'm sorry. That's not my fault. That's on you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernino. Melissa Brown. Good evening, you have 4 minutes.
I want to start off with the easy part of this. Mr. Grady deserves credit for having his review shared instead of it just being held on a consent agenda where it won't be discussed at all. Also, I'm glad the council finally took the time to tour and get a brief on the veteran cemetery, but it would have been better if it had been done before the agreement was signed. This order of operation makes it appear as if, on the whole, the council made an uninformed decision. So let's get into the real meat of it is WCID. What they didn't talk about is the cost of the 48-inch parallel transmission main. They didn't talk about the cost of the surge tank replacement, but if you go on their website, You can look at their CIP projects. You'll see that the total for both of those is $14.3 million. They've already talked to each one of their customers, so they've had a discussion with someone here in Killeen that's not the citizens or publicly at the city council to talk about every one of their customers paying a proportional share for that. Well, being that we are their largest customer, we're going to pay the largest proportional share. Every city and customer of theirs, except for Belton, will be asked to pay into that in the fall of this year. So it hasn't been accounted for. I'm going to surmise then that it would have to be on the FY25 budget. But it's still something before they continue to move forward with it. This council should have been briefed on the cost of those. So demolishing and replacing, we talked about those, just not the specific cost and how much it's going to cost the city of Killeen to do those projects that don't exactly benefit us. It's part of the overall system, but it's not for us. They're also currently seeking a new agreement with an international company for water out of an aquifer in Burleson County, which would increase costs to the citizens if we needed to get that water from there, which we don't. So I'm hoping that if and when that comes up, the city council would pass on that one. And then the expansion, according to their own CIP document, currently only helps WCID 3 with the needs that they have. We just paid a whole lot of money for the Stillhouse plant, which was supposed to take care of capacity for our future growth going forward. This 2 million gallons per day should be covered at Stillhouse, so I'm not sure why we need to do this. Instead of doing it that way, let's do a Harker Heights did. Anyone who needs the expanded capacity, they can pay for it. Later on, if we decide that we need it, let's jump in and do it. Fort Hood can still operate on a building that was constructed in the 1950s, but for some reason, we can't. So Fort Hood isn't asked to pay as much money as we are. What I just saw is a $94 million wish list with a $118.3 million total cost. The city has a $149 million wish list for bonds coming up over the next few years. So if we want to take $29.5 million and give it to WCID in debt, we'll take it out of the parks that would be coming up on bonds. Or maybe the teen center, the activity center, the library. We'll keep this city hall. We won't build a new city hall, and we'll go ahead and we'll put this money into WCID. We have to start prioritizing where the money goes. So the question, and I'm disappointed there were no questions, but is that 2 million gallons a day that there's projected in the future above and beyond what Stillhouse can handle? We've never hit our growth projections. And I also would like to add that we have all the water that we need for the growth to project.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Just 1 minute, please.
Council? No. No. Thank you. Sean, sorry. Councilmember Boyd?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to note that WCID did provide a presentation. We also engaged in a tour and seen the relevant needs that are needed there at WCID, just like the city of Killeen has relevant needs. I'm not sure if they are a wish list as much as they are relevant needs to sustain our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Gonzalez, did you have anything you want to say?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Price, good evening, sir. Councilmember Adams.
Just wanted to confirm, we are discussing the WCID's request at a workshop and then action at the...
Yes, in the second workshop, February, and then the last council meeting for action in February.
Thank you.
And also, we do have a board member, Blankenship, here. If any residents would like to ask her questions from anything that you may have heard tonight, she's sitting on this side. Mr. Price, sir, good evening. You have 4 minutes.
Hey, City Council, Madam Mayor. I had questions about the water, as well as you saw, 24-016. Again, I didn't speak as to the pressure, right? What is the end user's pressure? The state sets a minimum PSI for every household, and we're not meeting that today. So nothing was addressed. I didn't get that addressed on the last city council meeting. It was just said that it's in there somewhere, but how, I was asking how much will it increase? Will I get 6, 7 PSI for a new tank or whatever? And under this presentation, it said that we're paying $6, over $6 per gallon. Am I correct with that? Did I hear that correctly? We're paying $6 per gallon of water? Am I correct? Okay, because I'm just wondering then why would anybody buy the water when you can get it at Walmart for $1.38 so per gallon? So $6 a gallon over here, $1.38 a gallon over here. I'm just wondering what that is. I'm wondering why the cost is so. I understand the new construction, everything, great investment, so forth. I understand that. But my cost should be relative to what the market is. And that's 6 times the market cost. So why would we do that? Just a question. So I'm asking for specificity. As I go on with my other questions here, the city auditor's annual evaluation pay increase. Am I under what's the pay increase? What's the definition of pay increase? I don't know what that definition is. I can't find it. It's not in the details what the pay increase, who's getting the pay increase, or what's getting the pay increase. So if that could be explained, I'd be greatly appreciated. Down here, do I have to wait for the public hearing or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So those are my 2 main elements there is the cost, right, the benefits and the water pressure services, the end users, right? Nobody cares where the water comes from as long as it gets to the house, right? I can understand more chlorine, right? But we need the calc out of the water, With that, I'll withdraw.
Thank you, sir. And as a reminder, WCI board members right behind you should be more than willing to answer all of your questions.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And
Now,
just to put
Mr.
out that last week, I didn't get the reply that you said that you would send me for the answers for last week.
For what?
On the questions that I asked.
The question was about the dates for the election, and it's on our website.
Yeah,
So
and also if the TRADOC training access thing was using DEI in their events.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Did you get the question he just asked, Mr. Cagle, so he can get his answer? Mr. Price,
I have no idea what he's talking about.
what are you talking about? The question. We got on our website, we have the election. Oh, we can't go back. I gotta stay on this. Sorry about that. Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez. So we have one more speaker, and that's Mr. Bass. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you. My wife and I plan to be buried at our veterans cemetery, so this is a subject near and dear to our hearts. I belong to a biker club, and my brothers and I, and many other bikers, regularly attend the unaccompanied veteran burials out at the cemetery. These burials are for veterans who pass and have no family to attend the burial. The Veterans Land Board identifies these veterans and makes sure they receive an honorable burial. The Veterans Land Board, people from our community attend every burial. Mark Preacher George, a veteran, officiates as the chaplain. A lady always plays a beautiful song and accompanies it with sign language. Military personnel from Fort Cavazos attend, as well as military personnel from the Veterans Service Branch. If y'all have never attended one of these, I hope you can attend one in the future. The most recent unaccompanied burial was Seaman Recruit Reginald Cooper, U.S. Navy. Reginald enlisted in the Navy in 1973. When he passed, his body was unclaimed and his ashes were in a cardboard box. Reginald passed in very humble circumstances. But on the day of his burial, our community members showed up, and on that day, we were Reginald's family. And we know that Reginald's grave and memory will be honored at our Veterans Cemetery, no different than if he was a Navy admiral. This is one reason our Veterans Cemetery is so sacred to us. Every time I go to the cemetery, everything is perfect and immaculate. Perfect and immaculate is a very high standard, but that's the standard we expect. I hope we can all work together to make sure our Veterans Cemetery remains a beautiful, sacred place for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. I agree with you. That is a sacred place for loved ones, and we're grateful that we have that relationship with Texas Veteran Cemetery to take care of our loved ones. I thank you for your kind words. Council, there were some questions that was asked, and I don't know if anybody want to address them before we go into the consent agenda item. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to respond. Mr. Price had a few questions. I know he's stepped out with the board member from WCID, but he referred to the $6, what he perceived to be $6 a gallon in the presentation was incorrect. That $6 was a breakdown of what it would cost us to get us to the capacity that they're proposing if you were to break that capacity down, not what we would be selling or purchasing water for. And then he asked about water pressure as it related to the water and wastewater master plan. The water and wastewater master plan is just a plan. It doesn't affect water pressure. What's proposed in the plan could affect water pressure, but our last presentation from our previous Executive Director of Public Works assured us that the water pressure that we have meets or exceeds the current requirements, so I would, never mind.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Price asked a question about the pay increase for the city auditor, and I believe that was posted, and it's available in the agenda. And is it appropriate just to read off the new salary, or?
It's a public record.
Okay, so the new salary is $108,000.17, and he received a 6% COLA and a 2% merit-based increase. And everyone can have access by going to our website, and it'll show the letter signed by the mayor to Ms. Park and Mr. Grady.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Lastly, there was a statement made about an uninformed decision regarding the regarding the cemetery. I just want to materially state that that is also inaccurate. Not only did I cannot speak for the entire council, but I do know that they've had independent conversations with both local, outside officials, the cities that are actually participating in this program, the counties that are participating within this program. I personally have spoken with city officials, the state rep, and also the head of the Veterans Land Board. Discussions and conversations were also had with my constituents, some of which are sitting in this audience right now, and my decision was very well informed.
Thank you, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And a lot of us have attended a loved one or a friend funeral out at the cemetery, and they have top-of-the-line services. I can only speak for my own self personally, because my husband is laid to rest out there, and the services is truly amazing. So thank you all council members for all that clarification. It's very important that you will hear a lot of things coming from this podium, but because you hear it, it doesn't make it facts. So thank you for answering those questions. Our consent agenda. Madam Secretary.
RS 24015, consider memorandum resolution authorizing the award of bid number 2416, street construction materials in an amount not to exceed $700,000 citywide for FY 2024. RS 24016, consider memorandum resolution authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement for the development of the 2024 Water and Wastewater Master Plan in the amount of $251,445,000. RS 24017, consider a memorandum resolution to hold a joint general election with Killeen Independent School District and the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County. RS 24018, consider a memorandum resolution confirming the city auditor's annual evaluation and pay increase. OR 24001, consider an ordinance calling the May 4th, 2024 general election to elect a mayor and 3 council members at large. The caption of the ordinance reads, an ordinance ordering the holding of an election in the city of Killeen, Texas, for the purpose of electing a mayor and 3 council members at large, providing for the filing of written application to have their names printed on the official ballot, fixing the time within such application may be filed, specifying that the provisions of the general election law shall control all questions pertaining to such election, prescribing the contents of the official ballot, naming the early voting clerk, designating early voting polling places, and providing for posting and publication of notice of election and containing miscellaneous provisions.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cobb. Mayor Pro Tem Cobb, I apologize.
You're fine. I second that.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Madam Secretary, public hearing.
PH 24002, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending the FY 2024 annual budget of the City of Killeen to increase revenue and expense accounts in multiple funds. The caption of the ordinance reads, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Killeen, Texas, amending the FY 2024 annual budget of the City of Killeen to increase revenue and expense accounts in multiple funds, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing a savings clause, and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. Council, Mrs. Drake went through the slides last week. Would you like for her to go back through them? Public hearing is open. Sean Price. Sean Price. Public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion to approve PH-24-002? Councilmember Adams. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Price, let me open public hearing. I called your name twice.
Yeah, the chief grabbed me up
Yeah,
there.
but
I
I still
apologize.
called your name twice. Public hearing is open again.
I was just wondering, on this, is there a necessity for so many seats on the city council that are at large? Is there an actual computation or reason for 3 seats, or is
Sir,
that?
we're talking about the budget. The public
Oh.
hearing is about the budget, sorry, but we're on the budget.
I guess I don't have any of that on here.
Thank
as
you.
to- 'cause all I have is what's written on here for public.
Right, but we're on the budget, sir.
Okay. I
All
didn't
right.
have a question on the budget.
Thank you. Public hearing closed. Can I get a motion? Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve PH 24-002.
Councilmember Solomon.
Second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Sagara.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.